Alexandra has a lot of hope and a lot of promise. However, a lot of that hope and promise has been untapped because of the lack of access to high quality education.
My daughter came only in I think it was the third term, but within a short space of time, I could see the difference. It took only about 4 to 6 weeks to develop some basic things that she missed out at that previous school. And I think it was because of the kind of attention that she was given here. Classes are smaller.
I love that the headmaster has for our kids. She's got passion with kids, and the teachers, the team is so brilliant. They just welcome me as like part of the family.
I always tell people that teaching chose me. I've learned that it's important for a teacher to know his or her kids personally.
Hands off, shots. Now, I want you guys to tell and share with the person next to you and share with your partner.
They are more of independent scholars. There's little minimal teacher intervention when they do their work. They take control of what they're doing. They know what they're doing. They're not just writing or they're not just doing math for the sake of doing it, but they have skills.
Teaching in this school, it's amazing. It's a journey. It's not just me being a teacher, but I get to do what I do best each and every day, and there's always room for growth.
One thing that my daughter was 2 years ago, she was a bit of an introvert, but now, 2 years later, she's more confident, she's more social. In fact, now we tend to have fights when we're doing homeworks because now she wants to do homeworks on her own.
We really feel like Alexandra will only be able to reach its potential if access to high quality education is given for all the children of the community. And so for us, Kgololo Academy is a starting point for that.
So tell me about the name of your school.
Okay. The name of our school is Kgololo Academy, which means to set free in Tswana.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I like that. And how'd you come up with that name?
Tulani and I spent a lot of time reflecting on what education did for us, you know, and I was just talking to him about how education for me was freedom. It gave me an opening to all the possibilities that exist in the world. So I asked him, could he find a word in one of the Black South African languages that meant freedom, to set free. And so at first we came up with Kulula, which means to set free in Zulu. However, the airline, Kgololo, had taken every variation of that spelling. So we settled on Kgololo, which is the Tswana version.
And what's your husband? Is he?
He's Zulu.
He is Zulu?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were leaning towards
you were trying
Zulu.
to find a Zulu word.
Yeah.
And I know the school's been around since 2015. Tell me about like what made you decide, hey, I want to start a school versus just putting your child into a school here in South Africa?
You know, one of the first things Tulani and I thought about when we moved to South Africa was what kind of school, you know, do we want for our son, even though at the time he was 3. And I knew that I wanted a school where he would not be subtracted from the curriculum, that he would feel a part of the curriculum, that he would have the opportunity to learn about himself. And so in 2012, that's when we got the vision to start the school. We had been here in South Africa for a year. And I really wanted a place where my son could see himself in the teachers, my son could see himself in the students. And so in addition to wanting to start a school for other children to have access to a high quality education, I wanted to start a school that I would want my son to go to as well. And I didn't really feel comfortable sending my son to some of the schools that I'd seen. I just felt that, yes, they're going to provide him with maybe a strong academic foundation, but what are the other messages that he would receive, you know, by being put into these schools? Most of them would be predominantly white schools that I would feel would be able to offer him that academic excellence. And I just felt that we've moved to the continent. I don't want my son to be the minority in his school. I want him to be surrounded by Black excellence. And so there are schools of Black excellence that exist, but I wanted to be really deliberate about creating something also where my husband's from, in Alexandra Township. And so at that time, there were not schools of what you would consider schools of excellence in the Alexandra Township.
So for you, it was more of a I don't even know what word to use other than it was like, how can I build something that is not only going to provide a Black excellence experience for my kid, but my husband came from one of the poor townships in South Africa. How can we create something that can give back to, that can provide to the kids that are there?
Right.
So what you're providing for the kids there, it's almost like you understand that those kids are your husband.
Yeah.
And
But I like the way you put that, yeah.
because they,
Because they are. Yeah.
those kids are your husband. So it's like, if they can have an opportunity, because he obviously was fortunate.
Yeah, he was lucky.
You know what I mean? To be able to get to the States, not that the States is the savior
Right.
of
I hear you.
people, but
I hear you.
but to be able to do that and then position himself so that he could actually do what he's doing, what you guys are doing together. Like that can change the whole environment and the way people see the township.
Yeah, exactly, and that's exactly what we wanted to have a role in playing. Alexandra has a beautiful legacy. You know, most of your notable South Africans, they're from Alex or they've spent time in Alex. Nelson Mandela spent time in Alex. The former vice president spent time in Alex. So Alex has a lot of beautiful history, and Alex has a lot of strengths. However, education hasn't necessarily been one of them. Of course, you're going to find pockets of excellence within Alexandra Township schools, but to find an entire school that's excellent, I don't think that people in the community would be able to name one.
Right.
And so we really wanted to create that for every child, you know, within the community. Because for Tulani, as I was sharing with you, he and a few of his friends were studying on an abandoned bus, in Alexandra. And there was a gentleman who worked at the American School. I'm not sure what he was up to. He was just exploring the township that day. He found my husband and his friends
On this bus.
And so ended up offering them some tutoring services, and then it appeared, he was working at the American International School.
Okay.
So then it appeared that there were some opportunities for scholarships. So my husband and two of the other gentlemen received scholarships to go to that school. And, you know, Tulani's very thankful for that opportunity. However, you know, we're always challenged by the fact that he had to leave, you know, his community in order to have access to high quality education. And also, what about his friends? Right, he had friends that had just as much, if not more, potential than him, but they just happened not to be on that bus the same day. You know, so why do you have to be discovered to have access to high quality education? It's not like you're trying to be the next superstar.
You just want an education.
You just want an education. But for so many Black South Africans who come from communities like Alex, when you hear their stories, they were all discovered somehow.
What?
I see there's a lot of discovery taking place. It wasn't just that I went to school, I did well, I applied to VITS, I got in. No, there was some kind of like divine intervention that needed to take place in order for that to happen, and that was what was problematic for us.
Well, that makes sense, and I think that when I think about what you're trying to create as far as like Black excellence is concerned, you're right. You shouldn't have to leave your home or your community to get something that you are qualified for, because you are smart, you are capable, you are intelligent, and I shouldn't have to leave for somebody to notice my intellect. So if you guys are providing that in that way, then that means that the kids that are there know that there's a possibility for them to do more, and they don't have to go far to find it.
Right, they can just go right down the street. You know, many of our students were on 2nd Avenue and 13th Avenue. 2nd Avenue is more residential, so many of our students just walk, you know, to school each day, and it's a beautiful thing to me, you know, because people who are from Alexandra, you know, they tend to be very proud of it. That doesn't mean that they don't recognize the challenges that it faces, but they recognize the grittiness, the strength, the community that exists there, and so it's been really a source of pride that we've been able to create an academy with the community that helps to embody that pride that they have, and now in the form of an education that's going to really empower their children to be able to live lives of choice.
So what are some of the challenges that your students have? Because just me thinking outside the box, you're looking at little brown boys and little brown girls possibly being the first of a family to get this type of education. What type of challenges are you seeing when it comes to having to incorporate parents as part of because they're part of the process
Right,
too.
yeah.
So what types of challenges are you having as far as that's concerned?
Yeah, I think with students, we start with grade R, which is the equivalent to kindergarten. So we start with 5-year-olds. Next year the first year we had pre-K, pre-R, which is 4-year-olds. We're actually bringing that back, which I'm really excited about. So with the kids, you find kids are, of course they're unique, based on where they come from. But as an educator, I find that kids inherently are children. And they, you always have the personalities, no matter what country you're in. You have the ones that are super focused. You have the ones that lead a little bit more,
Come on, buddy.
So I found that with the kids, that hasn't been the challenge. The challenge has been trying to figure out the best ways to engage parents, right? Because you mentioned that these kids are the first of their families to have access to a private school education for the most part, and I think that sometimes a parent who didn't have that type of education might think that just by me sending my child to a private school, that's the solution.
Yes.
And so our model supposes that that's not entirely it. That's one part of it. We really believe that we need parents to fully engage in the process in order for their children to be successful. And so I don't think it's a matter of parents, they don't want to engage.
Yeah.
I think that they don't necessarily know that they're meant to. And so really inviting parents, into the process as partners. You're the expert on your child. Maybe you can't help them with grammar. Maybe you can't necessarily help them, with 5th grade math, which I sometimes struggle with, have to go on YouTube because it's different than the way we learned it, right? It really focuses on like conceptual knowledge and not just the procedure of solving the math problem. So sometimes that's problematic for me, and I'm a teacher. So it's not that we necessarily need them to, be experts on content, but we need them to support their children and making sure that they do the homework, making sure that they communicate with the school, making sure that they let us know what they need. If the child is going through something, at home, how can we at the school support them with that? So really treating them as partners. And also I think we've had to do a lot of teaching, right? That like, we need you, we want you to be involved,
Because I can see how they might have a small level of insecurity.
I can see that. Like you're the expert.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're the one that went to university.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would say like I would be a little bit insecure if my kid was going to this academy, whether or not I could afford it or not. It's like my kid's going here, and then you might think my kid's going to teach me something that I'm supposed to already know because I'm the adult. And then having to get around that barrier to say, it's okay that you don't know. We're all in this together. This is how we get it done.
Right.
But I think that you've made the school more like because when I visit, it looks like a family to me.
Yeah, that's what we try to be. That's what we aspire to be.
It looks like
sometimes it's functional, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we're happy with each other, sometimes we're not. But definitely in our heart, we call ourselves a team and a family.
It looks like a family. It looks like everyone understands what the end goal is, and everyone might have a different way to get there. But the goal is to make sure that these children understand who they are through their education and to see a reflection of themselves. And I watched them all, and I remember like crying. I'm like, look at all these beautiful little, and they're well behaved. Like you've done an amazing job.
Yeah, we're a very structured environment.
Yeah,
and we're structured not because we want to control children, right? We're structured because we want to make sure that we're prioritizing learning time, and also what we've realized within that structure is also freedom, right? Like if you have a structured environment, then there's also a lot of freedom for teachers and students to really engage with each other in a way that's organized, in a way that is going to really help to expand the knowledge of both the teacher and the student. So I just always want to make that point clear that like, yes, we are structured, but the purpose of that structure. Also, many of our kids have not had access to high quality early childhood education, so that structure is to really help us to not waste time, right? So we have these structured environments so like we can spend our time learning, and not necessarily dealing with a lot of classroom management challenges.
I like how you use the word classroom management challenges. I don't have any small kids, but just listening and seeing some of the stuff back in the States, like you could have one kid in a classroom that's so disruptive that nobody learns anything. But if you can get the structure down properly, you can still account for that kid that's that's disruptive. You can account for that kid.
Right. Often that kid needs some additional support.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you don't label him immediately. Like,
right. No. Usually, I used to work with older kids, so I worked with 11 to 14-year-olds.
Oh, God.
So this was my, when I started the school, I was starting with the little guys. And I don't think I realized how deeply they feel. I mean, I was very naive. I thought that, young kids were more aloof. They didn't really know, what was going on sometimes, but they know exactly what's going on. They may not be able to articulate it,
Yes.
but they'll display it in their behavior.
Okay.
So maybe Gogo's sick. Maybe the grandmother, maybe their parents, had an argument. Things that are not unusual. But for a child, they don't know how to process it. Okay. So they might come to school and act out that day. And so at our school, we try not to judge it, and just say you're going to the naughty corner. It's more about like, what's going on with you? You don't seem like yourself today. And then we have a school counselor that really has done a fantastic job of like supporting kids. It doesn't mean that there aren't logical consequences that kids face, but we really challenge ourselves not to just assume, someone is just trying to disturb the class for no reason. People behave in a certain way because usually there's something that's going on with them. So really teaching our teachers to look for that.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. And I think we had talked a little bit one time before, like talk to me about your school fees and how you are able to support the kids in that manner.
So when we first set out for creating a model for the Alexandra Township, we knew that economics was an issue, right? The average annual income in Alexandra is about 5,000 rands per month, and probably with the current exchange rates, about $300 a month. And so we knew that we had to figure out how do we make this as accessible as possible, while still being able to pay the bills, and have the tools that support our mission. So our school fees right now are 1,200 rands a month, which is about $80. It depends on what the exchange rate is. But right, it's about $80 a month. And that includes 2 healthy meals, it includes an extended school day, and it includes a teacher that's going to do whatever it takes in order to help to ensure that your child is successful. And what we do to offset that cost, because that's not our actual cost. Our actual cost is double that. So parents pay half, and then we fundraise the other half. So we have individuals who, may support 5 scholars. We have corporates who support, different organizations who support, maybe 1 scholar or maybe 10 scholars, just in helping us to offset the cost so that we can ensure that we provide the students with what they need to achieve their goals.
No, that's great. And then when it comes to like I know we've donated before, but when it comes to like having other people done, like what do you suggest they do? Do they just go to a PayPal account? Like how do they get you funds?
Right. So in order to donate, we usually direct people to our website, and on our website you can make a donation through PayFast. You can also make a donation through PayPal, and that support goes towards offsetting our costs so that we can continue to make fees accessible to our scholars. So we have a lot of individuals. My mother, for example, she donates $50 a month, right? And so that helps to offset some of our costs, so that we're able to, focus on growing brains, growing the intelligence. That's what we say at our school: growing their brains, creating more wrinkles on their brains, growing the intelligence of our students, and also growing the intelligence of our teachers, right? So that they're able to deliver high quality instruction.
So you are really deliberate in making sure, like even when you hire teachers, like you are deliberate about whose energy you allow next to your kids, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't want one apple to mess up the whole. But the teachers that I've had the opportunity to meet, they've got some really, I don't even know, like they love those kids.
Yeah.
Like you know that when they leave there, that they're still thinking about their kids that day. Like you can really.
We've been really fortunate with the teachers that we've been able to find. We've gotten better and better at it each year. Really making sure that the teachers that we select, they are very clear about what journey we're on. I think in the past we didn't do as good of a job of clearly articulating, what the difference is between a Kgololo Academy teacher and maybe a teacher who teaches somewhere else. At our school, when we say we'll do whatever it takes, like we really mean it. And that might mean visiting the home of a child. That might mean, there's a family, whose house caught on fire, taking groceries to that family. It might mean attending a funeral of a child whose parent passed away. It might mean attending an event, when a student is, or going to a soccer game. But really doing whatever it takes to make sure that our students succeed. And it's not your typical 9-to-5 job. We are trying to figure out how to create more balance, because it is a lot. Our teachers work an extended school day, and then often they'll go home and work on lesson plans and make phone calls to parents and, sometimes make phone calls to students because right now we're doing remote learning. If a student didn't submit their work, asking, where is it?
Where's your homework?
Where's your assignment?
My dog ate it.
Right. So just, we really look we realize that we're not looking for everybody. Right. I think at first we thought, we
just want to get a bunch of people.
We want teachers who are committed to their work. I think, yes, we want teachers who are committed to their work. We want teachers who are committed to the mission more.
Right.
Because if you're committed to the mission, then that means that you're going to do whatever it takes to achieve the mission. Not necessarily just committed to teaching.
Right.
Because I always tell people who interview, I'll ask them, why do you want to work at the school? And sometimes they say, I want a teaching job. And I'll usually tell them, if you want a teaching job, then I would recommend this particular school.
Right.
Because when you work here, you want a career, and you want a place where you're going to grow leaders, you're going to grow yourself, and you want a place where you can help us to you want to be in a position to help us fulfill our mission. But if you just want to teach, you're not going to keep up with what we do here. Because we work really hard.
No, you do.
So we're more honest now. When we can see a person, they just want to teach, that's not the answer that we're looking for.
I think that you are really creating a legacy, and I think that when I think about the school, I told you I think it's like a little mini HBCU. Like that's what it looks like.
I really like that. The comparison.
Because it looks like a mini HBCU, and then I'm thinking to myself, if you're creating these types of intellectual minds and you're adding a grade every year, by the time your son Themba graduates, he will have been in this academy his whole life, really learning what it means to seek Black excellence, to be Black excellence, and then to know that you set them up for an education. If they wanted to go overseas to an HBCU, they could continue that. Like, that's mind-blowing to me, to know that you can have a little brown or Black kid go their whole life with seeing predominantly Black teachers and seeing themselves in their teachers, and then being able to go out into the world. Because chances are, even if they do go overseas, they're going to come back home. Because it's going to come full circle, no different than your husband did. It's going to come full circle. And I think that's how you're actually going to end up changing the dynamics in Alex by itself. Like, you're going to see those kids come back home, take mom, build houses. Like, you're going to see that. It's going to take a couple of generations probably, but you will see it happen. So I think that the legacy that you're creating is bigger than probably what you could actually see, but I think that it's huge.
Beautiful, thank you. I really appreciate that.
I think it's huge.
And for me, Tasha, it's about, the legacy I'm creating. Yes, I'm definitely a part of that legacy. But it's really for me about the legacy that we're creating.
Yes.
Because I really believe strongly in investing in within the community.
Yeah.
So what's beautiful is that our founding team members who started on this journey in 2015, are still there, right? And so they started as teachers, or as entry-level administrators, now, Miss Nellie, who started off with us in year one, is the vice principal.
Is she?
Yeah, she's the vice principal. So that, for me, that was always my dream, and I think, when I first started the school, I always said that I won't feel like I really accomplished anything if I don't have a South African successor, right? Because I think that's what's going to make the school sustainable. It's going to take the school into the future. So I really believe strongly in investing in South African talent, because I'm invested in the community, and I feel like there is a role for me as an American in South Africa. And I feel like for me, that role is investing in South African talent, So that's something that's always been really important for me. And I think it's been beautiful to see the reception that Miss Nellie gets versus the reception that I get. I think, my staff definitely looks up to me as a Black woman. And when they see Miss Nellie,
they're like,
it's like,
she is me.
Yes, I can do that.
Yeah.
I can really do it. Right? Well, Waahida, yes, I can do it. Yes, she's Black. She's,
I get it. No, I get it.
But it's just something to be said about that. And I think it's really powerful for our students.
And it's powerful, and I understand the difference, because as an American, just like you, it's almost expected of you.
Yeah, it's that those positive, if you want to call them positive stereotypes,
like
right?
They're expecting you to be able to do but to see a fellow South African in a position like that, and they can actually see them every day, relate to them, talk to them,
and see that she's grown, right?
Yeah.
Like she started off as a teacher, which is a valuable position, right?
It is.
But how she's developed, how she's emerged into this, really inspiring leader. Who I really believe is going to be able to take the school somewhere that I can't.
For sure.
You know,
for sure.
And for me, that's exciting.
It is exciting.
Right. It doesn't make me sad. It actually makes me like, yeah, that's what we need. Somebody else to take it. Like you said, it takes generations,
It
right?
takes generations.
She's going to be able to take it, you know, to the next generation.
And you understand, like, you're not meant to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
that's not your role.
Yeah.
Your role is to find people,
Yeah.
to put them in place
Right.
that can execute your vision.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to learn that too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not always about me being able to do it all by myself. Like, I have to actually get people that I can actually direct and say, this is my vision now. Hey, can you go and get that done? And if you see that in her, she's going to see it in somebody else and pull them up.
Yeah, they've actually taught me that. My team has actually taught me that. I think within Black communities, around the world, right? Black American, Black South African. I think there's a lot of focus on family and what we can do together. I found that even more so in South Africa, right? I think when I came, I was focused on community, but it was more of a focus on like what I can accomplish as Waahida, right?
Yeah.
You know, and you realize you can't accomplish that much as an individual, right? I think that my team has taught me that's great that you can do these things, but like imagine what we can accomplish together, you know. And I think I really struggled with asking for help.
Oh, for sure.
You know, you know, I would even brag to my husband about how much I did by myself.
He's like,
I watched Amari, I cooked, I did this, I did lesson plans. He's like, that's nice.
That's a lot.
But like my mother could assist, right? Like
right there.
Yeah, you know. And so my team as well, you know, they're like, Miss Waahida, like you've taught us how to do this. You know, we've learned how to do this.
Yeah,
let us help you. Right? It wasn't like I was trying to keep it to myself. I think that sometimes you just forget, you know, that people want to play a role in the journey more so than you're providing space for them to.
Here's what I will say, and this is just my own personal opinion. As a Black woman in America, we are taught, either consciously or subconsciously, that it is a badge of honor to brag about how much stuff you were able to accomplish. And then at the same time, maybe complain a little bit about how tired you are.
Yeah.
It's like
I had that all over me.
It's like you sound crazy. Like, why would you do all that by yourself?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. This is my analogy. We know for a fact that when we're bringing groceries in the house, that we can take one bag at a time. We're gonna grab 6 of them. We're gonna line them up.
Yeah.
It's okay to take trips. It's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
But we're so used to just taking everything on. That's
one of the biggest lessons I've learned is let's focus on what we can do together.
Focus on what we can do.
Yeah.
We can do together. I think one thing that you mentioned before is that you're really focused on making sure you give your kids the confidence to compete. Explain a little bit more about their confidence to compete as far as like out either in the world or in South Africa.
Right. That's a good question because I had a friend. I've had several people actually, not just a friend, speak about, are you not worried about, you know, the kids, you know, our school's all Black, right? Are you not worried about, you know, your students being able to engage with the larger world? You know, by larger world, they mean, are you worried about them being able to engage with white people?
Okay.
Right. And I always say no. You know, I always say no because our students have strong foundational skills. You know, at our school, we focus on character and academics. Right, and I always feel that nothing can actually stop Black excellence. You know, and I always turn it around to them and say, are you worried about the Morehouse man who graduates from Morehouse being able to engage with white people? And they laugh. Of course not, right? Yeah. Because it's Black excellence, right? But are you worried about the child who goes to the public school in the hood, you know, or in the township who doesn't have access to high quality education? Yes, right? Because they're not being surrounded by excellence. You know, so for me, I'm not worried about my students being able to engage with anyone. You know, because they're given that strong academic and character foundation. And so my son has to engage with people across difference. It's not a thing to him, you know, because he's confident because he has the skills, right? His confidence is grounded in something. Yeah. You know, and I've seen schools that focus on, you know, Africanness, right? Of like being African-centered. And some of them have fallen short in that the kids are very knowledgeable about their Africanness, which is part of it. But then the academics are weak. Right. So like you have very proud people who can't necessarily solve equations. Right. And so for us, we want to do both. We want to make sure that our students are very proud of who they are as African Black people and back it up. Right. Like don't just be proud that you're Black, also be knowledgeable. Right. And so that's something that's been really important for us is that when kids are knowledgeable, that develops confidence, right? You don't necessarily have to have a separate curriculum, to teach kids to be confident. By having a solid academic foundation, by having character skills, by knowing how to advocate for yourself. We spend a lot of time having discussions in class, where we teach children, how to engage, in accountable talking prompts, so how to build off, someone else's conversation.
Wow.
So they might say, in addition to what Tasha said, I would like to add more. So teaching them those skills at an early age, that in itself develops confidence.
So Themba, it's nice to talk to you today.
It's nice to talk to you too.
So you've only ever been at your mom's school, right?
Yes.
So do you know how different your school is compared to other people's school?
No.
So you have nothing to compare to. You just know that your mom's the head honcho. Do you ever get in trouble at school?
Mm-hmm.
Do you?
Not all the time.
Not all the time. So talk to me about, weren't you were doing something a little while ago. Tell me what you're learning something. Coding?
Yes.
Did you teach yourself that, or how did you learn how to do all that?
I learned how to code from an app called Hopscotch.
An app taught you how to code.
Yes.
And so far, what have you made with that?
I've made a Flappy Bird and also Cube Dodger.
Cube Dodger. Okay, so you've made 2 video games.
I've made quite a few.
Oh, quite a few. Okay. Talk to me about your business that you started.
The business I started is called TZQ Consultancy.
Tell me what it does.
So what I'm doing currently is that I'm making schedules and I'm writing thank you letters to donors.
Really?
Yes.
That's an awful lot. And you're only 10 and a half?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna make me a schedule?
I will.
Tell it for a fee.
For a fee.
Absolutely. It's called business, buddy. We don't do anything for free. Nothing's free. You start a business, you make sure you make some money. You guys have been home schooling the last couple of months now?
Yes, well, since May.
Since May. And how are you doing with your homeschooling? How's that going?
It's going good.
Are you on your own schedule or on the teacher's schedule? How are you doing that?
I'm on my own schedule.
So okay. So you used to look like you're pretty disciplined. Are you getting all your work done on your own?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yes. I start at 9 and I finish at maybe 12.
And then what do you do the rest of the day?
The rest of the day I read my Harry Potter book.
Yes.
I'm on chapter 23 now.
Which book?
Harry Potter.
No, which one? There's like 8
Oh,
books.
the 5th one.
Oh, the 5th one's such a thick book. Yeah, it takes a while. We'll have to talk about that off the camera though. Okay. Well, I just wanted to see how things were going. Wanted to show the people the face of the school and know that you will be one of their first graduates in a few years. It's going to be a while because he's only going into grade
6 next year.
Oh, we're almost halfway there.
Yeah, we're halfway there though. Yeah.
That's going to fly by.
Don't say that.
You'll be fine.
It's gonna go very slow.
It's not going to go slow. But we're going to make sure that we check back in with you periodically because I want people to see you grow and see how your business is doing and how things are going as you get older. It's going to be exciting for me. I'm already excited. All right. That was awesome.
And so in our community, the average income is around 3,000 rands a month. And there's a lot of poverty in Alex. But one of the things that we try to focus on is all of the strengths of the community. One of the things that Alex has is community. It has family. People look out for each other. People take care of each other. And that's one of the beauties of being in this community.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today. If you like what you saw, please subscribe and don't forget to hit the notifications button so you don't miss out on all things The Real South Africa. Thanks again.